walk amongst us. You've witnessed their performances, you've celebrated their talent and cheered them on throughout the years. But do you know how they got there? Their trials and tribulations, their struggles and hurdles, and their determination, which has led to their success. Welcome to My Art, My Story, a web series brought to you by Arts and Culture Initiative of South Asia, also known as ACISA, where we sit down with your favorite local artists and get to know their story and journey a little better. I'm your host, Amin Dylan, and today I'm getting to know the artist Thaniath Siddiqui. Thaniath, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thanks so much for being on this episode. We would love to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us a little bit about your background.
First of all, I'd really like to thank Vasa for having me over here. And so let me start from the beginning. I was born in India, but when I was around 1 year old, I moved with my parents to north of Africa. I stayed there quite a bit for almost 20 years, did my schooling there, and I would say, really influenced by my mother, who was very artistic in all ways, from her cooking to drawing, painting, embroidery, everything. So I think she was my biggest influencer. So after my schooling, I did architecture and I got married and I moved to the Middle East. I would say at that point, I started exploring art a little bit more, gave some more time to myself, and I started learning. And I would say a bit of seriousness had come into my practice. But what I used to do a lot when I was in the Middle East was I was doing a lot of realistic drawing. So I would do a lot of, portraits and things like that. But somewhere down the line, I think I was a little unsatisfied because I wanted it really perfect. And so that was a bit of a struggle. But I kept doing that. And then I think the biggest transition came when I moved to Canada. And I moved to a really cold place, Ottawa. And over there, it was quite a cultural shock, and as well as the weather and everything. So, all put together, I was looking for ways to help me, cope with it. And I really used art for it. So I started taking really serious workshops, painting a lot. And I think the style of my painting changed when I was in Ottawa. And I suddenly became more abstract and very intuitive. And I realized I was so happy doing it because I wasn't following a piece of, or a photograph or anything. So when I finished my painting and it was an intuitive painting, it gave me a lot of satisfaction because I felt it was me who was painting. I did not need any photograph or anything for it. So I think that was a big transition for me from realism to, abstract and semi-abstract. Then after Ottawa, I moved to Mississauga. And over here, I think again there was a big transition in the fact that I started engaging with the community. I started teaching. So it gave me a different level of satisfaction when you're within amongst people, amongst your own artists and things. I started organizing stuff. So it kind of pushed me every time. I would say they were baby steps, but certainly they were good baby steps. And so I reached Mississauga and I started showing my art and started teaching and getting engaged with the community. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
So this is what I think I am at now.
Wow, what a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, actually, then let's go back. What was that first moment where you thought, okay, I want to now really become a professional and I want to enter a show or I want to put on an exhibit where others can see my work?
I think it was, your mentors who you are moving with or your artist friends, and you see how they are growing. So it is that moment where you see others do it and you feel you can do it. So it's a very internal feeling that you feel, hey, I can do this too. I am good. I can show my art. I can display it, and so it happens. It comes suddenly, but it's great if artists get that very early in their career. I think Ottawa was a place where I started displaying very small pieces, being very critical about my own art. But then as I started doing big work and I started displaying in bigger galleries, your confidence gets, boosts up. And there you are. There's nothing to stop you then.
That's so interesting because I often hear from artists that sometimes they never feel ready for that first show, right? Or
Mhm.
that first application. But you were saying that moment just came to you where you're like, I am ready. So, what advice would you have for other people that are maybe looking to make that jump from, maybe creating art in their bedrooms, maybe in their homes, and actually becoming a professional? What advice would you have?
I would really tell other artists that if you don't try it, you will not know. And this is your chance. This is your life, and this is your moment. And there are lots of you should think of it in a way that, okay, in the next 5 years, what am I going to feel? Have I lost that chance where I could display my art? Could I have put it up in this gallery, or could I have taken it up in this show? And if you feel in the next 5 years you're going to look back and you're going to feel sorry about it, then just do it today. It's just now and this moment that you have.
Yeah.
Push yourself through it, and this you'll always move forward. There's no moving back.
Oh my gosh, I love that advice because I always say, you know what? If you're not willing to take a chance, you'll never grow, right?
Yeah.
And what's the worst that could happen,
Yes.
right? So when you put yourself out there, that's when you're able to then actually start working towards that journey of
Mm-hmm.
making it.
Yes.
Okay, so we actually have some of your pieces behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about them?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the horse at the back there, and I did that for the recent Vasa exhibition. It's I do a lot of mixed media, and I love creating textures. I make my own paper, and I paste it in, and then I work on it. It could be a complete abstract piece or a semi-abstract, or this time I just chose the horse. There's always a meaning in a painting that I do. So this was with the theme of Vasa, and it was about standing strong, how we all came out of COVID and we were resilient. And I put that in a form of a horse, because when you see a horse, you get the feeling of strong, determined, a fast runner, and things like that. So I think we all came out of COVID with the same spirit. Otherwise, we all wouldn't have survived it.
Yeah, and it's actually like I see the bright colors too, so it's very hopeful. I get a
Yes.
very positive vibe from it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what about the other pieces?
Yes. So again, I told you my story till I reached Mr. Saga. There was a little bit of I wouldn't call it a fallback, but I was diagnosed with cancer 3 years back, and at that moment, I had my very deeper, darker moments. It took me a long time to get out of it, but I used art as a way of healing myself, staying grounded. I would sketch. I have, sketches that are ugly, sketches that are beautiful, but I had to express myself. And I think each one has their own way of expressing. For me, art was the go to place where I would sketch, write, do all kinds of things. And I also went into a very deep meditative, um, um, you know, of state where I felt I need to be grounded. Did a lot of meditation, did a lot of gratitude. I think it was that period of time that I realized that this is the moment I have. This is the art that I have. This is the talent that I have. And if I don't show it now, you might never have a tomorrow. So, and at the same time, I think I found an artist voice and I loved painting landscapes. So it was about observing the nature and the surroundings around me, and that's what I wanted to bring it into my art. So since then, I have been painting landscapes completely, all different types of landscapes. So yeah, so as I said, it's today that you have. So I used landscape, I used art to really come out of my, illness.
And I think that's so interesting you shared that your art helped you heal,
Hmm.
because I think we're living in a time right now where people are all going through their own battles. Um, and I think people don't know necessarily what to do to heal. I'm going to say that word again, heal,
Yeah.
because I think right now people have gone through a lot in the past few years. Everyone has their own, I say, battles. And I'm so glad you shared your story, because I think sometimes you can look at someone like you and say, oh, she's so talented, she had so easy, but no one knows sometimes
Hmm.
the battle that goes on behind the paintings.
Yes.
So, how do you then, in terms of being a teacher, in terms of spreading this love for art, how do you help other people get in tune with their artistic side?
I think at the same phase of time I felt when I was trying to heal, the biggest way you can heal or you can advance is to help others. So I started teaching, and I did a lot of Zoom classes during the COVID. Some paid me, some didn't pay me, but that was not my mission. I wanted to bring art to the community. I wanted others to realize how beautiful a form of art therapy is. So yeah, that was my greatest achievement. I think is to relate to the public.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the part about being recognized as an artist. Sometimes you get paid, sometimes you don't. So
Yeah.
let's actually talk about the realities of that. What do you think is the hardest thing about being an artist here in Canada?
The hardest thing I feel is that you really have to be on top of your game. You really have to be, socializing and, sort of mingling around in the right community.
Networking.
Yeah, networking. I mean, you will make your art, you will spend time, you're a good artist, but how do you bring it to the world? How do you show it? So you need kind of help in it. You need to take some kind of trainings if you don't have the knowledge. So look for it, and train yourself into what you should do to come into the limelight, or into the people's know your art then.
Mhm. Is that how you then found out about Vasa and that's why you wanted to be a part of it?
Yes, I found out about Vasa because of my artist friends. Initially, when I started, I did, I think, 3, 4 years back or something. That was my first time. And I was so thrilled with it, just to be connected with a community, a South Asian community, and to show your art. And it was so quick to make friends there. Just yesterday, I went to an art event and I met 3 friends there. And we were just trying to find out where we had met her the first time, and it was Vasa. And I said, wow, look at that. It was 4 or 5 years back that I, met them. And our friendship is just growing. So Vasa is just a great platform for artists to mingle, show their art, their culture, everything put together.
Okay, so you've shared what are some of the difficult parts about being an artist. What are the best things about being an artist here in Canada?
Oh, it's so inclusive. I think it's so it is a base where it boosts your sort of your energy. You want to do things. You want to be in the community of artist community. You make new friends. You socialize. There's so much put together with just creating art together. I can't imagine a life without art. Like it would be very, very boring, I would think.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look forward. Already you've had an amazing journey. Let's say in the next few years,
Hmm.
where would you like to see yourself?
I would really like to see a lot more work that I would do for myself, like large pieces. And I would like to have gallery representations. And the other thing that I would really love to do is to organize events for artists. Being in the community of artists and talking to them, so we kind of share the same aches and pains. So I wish to provide a platform that where we could do something really remarkable, engage artists from different countries and different types of art, and really versatile.
Yeah. And is there, because you're known for your landscapes now, is there a specific area you want to go in person and be able to be inspired to create something?
Yes, I would love to go anywhere near the water. I think water really inspires me. So any place, I mean, I was born and brought up near the Mediterranean, so I would love to go back there. Just love that, gorgeous blue there. So yeah, but I get inspired by very little things also, the shadows and flowers and clouds and things. So it doesn't have to be too much for me to get inspired. I just feel inspired for whatever reason.
Amazing. Okay. And is there one piece in particular of your entire collection
Mhm.
that is your favorite and why? I know this is a hard question.
Well, no, I can talk about it. It was a Venice scene that I have created, was on a big canvas, and it's an oil painting. I used to do oil painting earlier, and I think that was my biggest painting that I had done, and I felt after completing that painting, I was amazed that I had created it. So that piece always has a very special place for me, and I have kept it in a very prominent place in my house, and no one will is allowed to touch it or take it away from me. So yeah, that's one piece that I would always keep with me wherever I go.
Amazing. And I actually do want to go back and mention this. One of the things I think when especially parents think about their children wanting to pursue art, or even when individuals are thinking about pursuing art, the worry of can I make a living from this? And you
Hmm.
had mentioned that during the pandemic, you were doing Zoom classes. Sometimes you're paid and sometimes you weren't. So that is something that I know should be drawn attention to because I think here in Canada, we have a lot of talented people and we should make sure that we support them so
Yes.
they can financially pursue their career goals. So what do you think that we as a community can do to support artists like you and make sure you're getting paid and you're able to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, as an artist, I think a couple of things are there. One is that, when you want to exhibit your work and things, that at some point it does become very expensive. So the cost is there. There are lots of shows, there are lots of call for artists, but you have to pick and choose because of the budget that you have kept or allotted for yourself as to how much, because whether you make it to the show or not, the fee is already taken. So those are a few things. And the other thing I would say is, like, I want to work big, and I haven't found a space where I can bring my stuff, leave my canvas, come back the next day and work on it, like a studio space, which is reasonable as well. You
Mhm.
might find spaces, but then something that's reasonable, because artists have a lot of challenge with the space that they're working in. So if a space can be provided, I think a lot more art can come out from artists.
All right, there we go. We've got the insight now, so we will do our best to support you as a community. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Vasa, for having me over.
I'm your host, Amin Dylan, and today I'm getting to know the artist Sulek a little better, formerly known as MC Sulek. Thanks so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today. I think, been looking forward to, let people know a little bit about myself and the music, and just really excited to be here today.
Okay, so let's actually get to know your story a little bit better. So take us back. Tell us a little bit about your background.
I was born and raised in Mexico City, actually. Moved to Canada about 16, 15 years ago. And, ever since I was a kid, I think, music has always been a part of who I am. Since an early age, I was introduced to, playing the drums, the piano, vocal coaching as well. So, when I came to Canada, I decided that I wanted to take this as a professional career.
Okay, so tell me about that decision though. So you come to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
Are you pursuing maybe other things, or you're like, no, when I get to Canada, I know I'm gonna pursue music?
It's funny because in my family, there's actually no musical background whatsoever. I do have, uncles and family members that love music, but there isn't anyone that's professionally doing it. And coming from a culture that is very strict when it comes to career, I actually was gonna do architecture, but I started doing it, and then I just decided that it wasn't the right place for me. I was in class, and I was just my head was just created melodies, and I actually started writing poetry when I was younger, and that's when I decided, okay, I think music, it's my actual passion. It's something that I really enjoy. So that's how I was okay, I'm gonna just follow my heart and follow that passion. I stopped architecture. I was halfway there, and I was I need to go and get into what I actually love. I actually went to school for entertainment management and music production. And then from there, it's just been a whole process of creating music, performing, putting music out, branding myself as an artist. So that's kind of how it all started.
Okay, very important question. You decide to change career paths halfway through. How did your family react when you told them the news?
At first, it was shocking, right? It was are you sure? I guess, for them, it's very important to have something that's financially, secure, right? But for the most part, my family has been very supportive. I think, again, they saw that, when I was a kid. I remember, watching music videos and copying what the artists on the music videos were doing. So I think, my parents saw that, and I guess that's why they were okay, let me try out, introduce him to playing the piano and the drums and vocals, right? So it was a little tough at the beginning, but I feel once they saw that was actually where I felt the happiest, they're okay, we're gonna support you, and they've been there since day one.
I think a lot of parents just worry, how is my child going to financially take care of themselves, right? You were just mentioning that had you gone to architecture, that you probably would have got a pretty nice jobs from there.
Of course.
So you become an artist, an independent artist. How do you then start getting paid for your work? Talk to me about that.
At the beginning, it was complicated, right? Because you have to have a balance between, okay, I need to make a name for myself. I need to seek these opportunities. And, when you're an upcoming artist, it's hard, right? Most of the shows that you're getting is probably going to be free shows, right? But then again, I also did entertainment management, which helped me understand I guess the value for my art, right? So it's easier now for me to seek opportunities, but at the same time, to not forget, the value that has, to be in the studio, for example. That's an investment, right? That every artist has to make. So, it was tough at the beginning, but I guess now I have a better understanding of how the business works. I've been doing this for, a good 10 to 12 years, and then professionally 6 to 8 years. So I have a better understanding of how it works, and how to negotiate and to present yourself. Because at the end of the day, artists can't forget that we're a brand, right?
Of
We're a
course.
product, so we need to understand our audience and where to go from there.
I think that actually really sets you apart because I don't know many artists that actually went to school to have the educational background for this business, and they usually like have a manager or somebody that can take care of it, and it puts you in a very unique position where you're the artist, but you have that background knowledge as well to be able to protect yourself, right? To make sure that when you're getting into contracts or you're getting shows that you know exactly what you're signing up for. Do you find that's an issue in the industry that a lot of artists, they either don't understand the business side to it, or there's just like maybe not enough people out there that can, like business managers or agents or anything that can help them out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's still a gap between artists like myself that just love to create and people that understand the business, right? I've unfortunately, there are certain experiences as an independent artist you have to go through, which happened to me. A few years ago, I started working with a label, and unfortunately, it just didn't work, right? So that was the sign for me to, like, okay, I have to go to school. I have to understand not only the creative process but the business side of things, right? So I do think that's still, like, a gap for artists that are on the come up. They need to make sure they understand exactly how the business works, and they need to really understand that it's gonna take some time for them to really get there.
Yeah. When you were starting out, I feel like a lot of artists can probably identify with you. I feel like in Canada, a lot of people want to be independent, right? They want to control their music, their sound, whatever, even their style. But being able to then fund, if you don't have the record label, if you don't have the management firm behind you, right? You need to be able to fund it. So were there any resources you were able to turn to here in Canada that helped you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, being in the industry for this many years, I have been able to create a network of people, whether are promoters to radio hosts to other artists, producers. And I think when it comes to my career, I always look back, and if I have any questions or anything that has to do with my career, I can always look back to them and use them as a resource, right? I think in this industry, it's very, very important to have a network of people that are part of the same industry. Not only for resource, but, like, collaboration is something very important too, right? I'm part of an art form that it's on the come up, which is the line music, and collaboration is just something that it's a must, not only because it's good to always have different people to work, but it's just good to just have those resources available.
Of course. Is there like a dream person you're hoping to collaborate with one day?
I mean, there's tons of artists that I always look up to, but I think my biggest inspiration, not only because of the music, Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is someone that I've since I was a kid, is like someone that I look up to. Michael Jackson, of course. More in the Latin industry, yeah. There's this artist Raul Alejandro, which is like on the come up as well. That is someone that I hope one day I can get to that same level and collaborate and work with him.
Yeah. Has there been someone that maybe you looked up to that like DM'd you or reached out to you at a show and was like, listen, I'm like a fan of your work, and you're like, you know who I am? I always feel like that's a big moment. Did you ever have one of those?
Yeah. No, there's there's been a few artists that are from, like, the States, Miami, just recently from Venezuela, that have reached out, and they're like,
Ooh.
oh, like, hey, like, it's more producers though, that have reached out to me to see, like, hey, like, I have this type of beat that I'm working on, and I think you sound great on it. Like, do you want to check it out? But also in Toronto too, like, I've had the opportunity to connect with different artists, and I've built some really great relationships that it's just a matter of, like, setting some time and be in the studio and start creating.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard really good things about the Toronto scene, that it's a really supportive scene, very close knit, and that everyone's looking to like work with each other and bring each other up. So, what would you say is a way that the community can come and support artists like you?
Um, I mean, it's great to have platforms like, like the Vibrant Brampton Festival, for example, that opens the door to artists like myself that aren't really necessarily from the community. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like the Toronto music scene is getting there. I think there's still some room, some opportunity to grow in terms of collaboration.
Yeah.
Again, I think a lot of new artists don't really understand that part of like, okay, yes, it's cool to be an independent artist, and it's great to work on yourself and on your own. But at the same time, it's very important to have a team of people that can be there to support you, right? Um, so I think it's moving on the right direction. I just think there's still that room and opportunity for growth.
Of course. And living in a city that is so multicultural, I mean, you've got years in the business. So I was like thinking, wow, you probably get exposed to different styles just, going to a local festival or, being downtown or anywhere. So in your own opinion, how have you evolved as an artist over the years?
You touch upon a really great point, and that's the fact that we're in the most biggest multicultural city in the world, and being in such a beautiful industry, which is the music industry. I've had the opportunity to meet and just being exposed to different cultural backgrounds of music, artists. So I think as an artist, coming to Toronto was such a big impact for myself, because I've learned so much about other cultures and musical backgrounds, and I think that's an advantage for myself, because now I understand a little bit more about other styles of music, for example, right?
Are you starting to incorporate some of that? Like, I'm trying to figure out, do you, like you just told me you have rebranded yourself. So let's actually talk about that, rebranding yourself, why you're doing that. And then is there like a direction that you're hoping to take yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Every time I'm in the studio, so I grew up with, a lot of different styles of music. Like I said, in my household, there wasn't just one specific music. It was a bunch of different things, from R&B to 80s music to salsa to reggaeton to pop music. But being here in Toronto, I'm trying to incorporate the things that I like, which is R&B and currently Afrobeats music. So if you listen to my newer work, it's a lot of pop Latin influence mixed with the Afrobeats, the reggaeton, the more like urban scene.
What is it actually like though, then rebranding yourself? Because I'm like, you've made your name, right? And now you're telling me you're Nazz Sulek. So is that like making that decision? Was that an easy one, or are you a little bit like nervous about coming out with a rebrand?
No, I'm still a little bit nervous, because like you said, I've been in the industry for so long that now, every time I'm at a show or like an interview, it's like they know me by MC Sulek. But I think it's good to, sometimes, MC Sulek, the reason why MC Sulek came is because back in the day when I started, I actually started with hip hop and rap music, very underground. MC stands for Master of Ceremonies. And so for me, it's, give me a mic, give me a song, and I can put on a great show. That was the whole meaning behind MC Sulek. But there's been so much growth in the last few years, from my image to my sounds, that I thought it was about time to now, okay, this is the new me. This is the mature artist. Now I know my sound. I know who I am as an artist, as a person, and that's what made me, take that huge decision of okay, I'm gonna rebrand myself and just go from it.
So for the fans that maybe knew you when you were using the title MC Sulek, and they're thinking, who is now this new Sulek? How do you feel like you as an artist will be different?
I think it's mainly gonna be my sound. Like I said, I think I found the sound that I'm more comfortable with, and that's the reggaeton, a little bit mixed in with the pop, the Afro beats. I'm still working on, my image as an artist. Like I want to make sure that I represent who I truly am with, the things that I wear, how I speak, how I present myself to the audience. But in terms of music, I think it's still going to be the same thing. I don't. There's no difference in terms of, when I'm writing. I always write about music that represents me and my day-to-day life. I make music that people can relate to. So that's still gonna be the core of who I am as an artist. It's mainly more like, my imagery, how do I want to present myself to the artist, right? Because at the end of the day, we can't forget that a lot of the younger people are looking up to us too, right? Just like we're looking up to other artists. And my goal is to, hopefully one day have younger kids that can be like, oh, I really relate to Sulek. I really want to look like him, right? I want to dress up like him. I want to make music like the kind of music he makes, right? So that's the end goal.
Excellent. Okay, so what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm actually just focusing more on the songwriting process. I want to start collaborating with other artists outside of just the Latin community, in terms of composing music and being in the studio more, as a producer. And I'm gonna be focusing a lot on my upcoming EP. That's the goal. I want to have a whole set of singles put together and then just present it as one whole album.
Amazing. And if you could share any piece of advice for anyone who's an inspiring musician or an artist and wants to follow in your footsteps, what would be your best piece of advice?
I think what I can tell you is you have to be consistent. It's not an easy industry. There's going to be a lot of time, that you're going to have to spend in the studio, really, really crafting your songwriting, your vocals. So I think the biggest advice that I can give upcoming artists is you have to invest in yourself and you have to be consistent. We live in an era where there's new music coming out every single day, right? There's new artists on the come up every single day. So in order for you as an artist to be on that same level, you have to be consistent and you have to be, you have to make an investment, whether that's studio time, invest in like maybe some vocal coaching, invest in like, dance lessons, whatever the craft is, just make sure you're investing in that.
And even doing interviews like this, because it's I feel like a lot of times we get to see artists on stage or at an event. You don't often see them in an interview. So I think it's really cool that fans of your work are getting a chance to get to know you. But I know sometimes it's not second nature, right? A lot of you guys just like to be in the studio, coming
Yeah.
out with your beats, coming out with your music. So what is it actually like putting yourself out there and talking about yourself?
I love it. I love when I get opportunities like this one because, like you said, it's a chance for people to not only see me as the artist, is a chance for them to actually get to know me on a more personal level. But yeah, it's really important too that if you're an artist, you have to be out there. You have to be seeking for all these opportunities. You have to be meeting people. You have to do that. That's part of the job.
Absolutely. And don't be nervous, right?
No.
I was gonna say, do you ever get nervous?
More than nervous is it's I get really excited,
I
and
like
whether
that.
that's like a show. A lot of people ask me like, oh, so how do you do like being in front of that many people?
Yeah.
It's like no, I do get nervous, but it's more the excitement. I'm excited to just be on stage and give my best, so people can relate to it. But you can't be nervous. You have to somewhat manage that and turn that into energy. That then you can present that on stage.
Yeah, and also you get to do what you love. So
Exactly.
take the best opportunity there, make the most of it, right? So
Exactly.
no need to be nervous. Well, thank you so much for coming on here.
No, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. I love to, um, you know, be there next year for the Vibrant Brampton. I love that festival. It's my second time I do it, and the first one was during quarantine, so it was a little different. It's not the same where you're just in front of a camera, but the second year was like amazing, like just being with that energy. And like I said, for me, music is it's just a universal language, right? It doesn't really matter whether or not you speak Spanish or not. I think the most important thing is when you see people vibing to your music and really connecting to that, you know? So I look forward to this year's edition, and I'm excited.
Amazing. We would love to have you back.
I
Thank
love
you.
to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Amin Dillon, and today I'm sitting down and getting to know Nazz. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
How are y'all feeling?
Good. I feel amazing.
Good.
Amazing.
Who's nervous? Who's nervous? I'm nervous. We're feeling good? Yes. Because I know this is the first interview for some of you, right? So whose first interview is this?
My first
For
interview.
first interview? Okay, we've got some seasoned vets here. So we'll make your first experience not as painful. But we want to get into the story of how we formed Nazz. But first of all, what's really great is all of you individually have your own experiences, right, as artists. So let's get to know you. So first of all, let's get your names.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zara, and I am a singer as part of Nazz.
Hi everyone, my name is Akshiptika and I am a singer and a part of Nazz. So
Akshiptika, who goes by Akshi, she also plays cajon as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Very important
She's
thing
our-
to mention.
She's our lead percussionist. My name is Zora, and I'm one of the vocalists of Nazz, and also I'm the harmonizer as well. I sing the harmonies.
Okay.
I am Nishat. I am the guitarist of the band and also the singer. And she really downplayed. She is the queen of harmonies. She can say.
Ooh,
So,
Queen of
yeah.
Harmonies. I like that.
Thank you. That's what we call her.
That's a good nickname to have. A long one, but very good one. So great to see you, ladies. And together we formed Nazz. So let's get to know the story. How did we decide to put together an all-female band?
I think it stemmed from, well, first off, we all met each other at other sort of performances, and we realized that coming together as females just made us a lot more powerful, and it was something that always lacked, especially in the Canadian South Asian industry, which is why we came together. We sort of had very similar ideas and mindset, and we decided to collaborate, and it just turned into something that was very motivating and very encouraging for all of us together.
So how long were each of you working as a solo artist?
So I've been a solo artist since I think I started when I was like 12 or 11, and I started learning music. It was pretty on and off until the past few years. I started actually learning about classical music. That's sort of my journey, and then I met these women and sort of collaborated with them.
So you've been singing since about 12.
Yes.
How long were you singing?
For me, it's since I was born, I have been born and brought up in a musical family. So that's how I know music, and when I was 3, since then I am, since the day I started talking is the day I started singing, so you can say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's incredible. Okay. So so far we've all been starting very young.
Yes.
Also, I started very, very young, but professionally, I've been singing for the last 10 years.
And for you?
I also started pretty young. My parents were super enthusiastic. I would have to admit that I was not interested initially because it was Indian classical, but somehow I budged, and for as long as I can remember, I've been singing my entire life, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all 4 of you ladies have been performing for many, many years, which is incredible. Some from birth. And so what was the desire then to go from solo to being part of a band?
I think it definitely comes from just the different ideas that we all had. And again, as I mentioned, that our mindsets, we really collaborated and we really aligned as artists. So coming together and being able to create music that we all sort of appreciate, and we all have very similar backgrounds, even though we're from different countries, but we're from the South Asian space. So it also just pushed us on an individual level to pursue something that on a more of a full-time basis. Because individually, I think we were practicing music in our lives, but of course work and the parts of life take over. But when we came together as a band, it really pushed us to give it more time and energy. I think if you all
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. And also, a funny thing is, we actually kind of met pre-pandemic, so things were very different. And I was kind of the common link between them because I met all of them individually. And like for a very long time, I always felt like it would be cool to have a girls band. But you kind of do not meet people who would have the same wavelength as you. Then especially I moved continents. I was in India most of my life, and then I came here, and then I met them, and I was like, this could work. This could really turn into something. So I called them one afternoon just to my place that just come over, let's chill, let's see what we got. And these people turned up. And Pasuri had just released back then. And we were all like, you know what? We were listening to that song and it was really, really cool. So let's just try to do it. Akshi got on the cajon. I was with my guitar, and we did not even know she could harmonize back then. And that, she had such a strong bass voice. And we just started doing it. And then 2 minutes into it, we were like, hey, stop. We got to record this because this is like really good.
Wow.
And then we recorded Pasuri, which was basically our first video together. We put it on Instagram, and basically I think it was peer pressure from people that, hey, you guys need to make a band. And then 6 months later, here we are.
Wow, that's such a
Yeah.
great story. So from the start, it just felt like it was meant to
It
be.
just felt like it was
felt
meant
like-
to
yeah.
be. Yeah.
And then for me, I played cajon for the very first time. So that was the very
What?
first time I played cajon, and then it was just like, okay, let's do it.
Wait, how do you just pick up cajon? Like, I feel like you just, I wouldn't know that if you gave it to me. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
That explains how she sings from birth.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's connected.
Yeah, you don't need to be
That's
taught.
really
You just know. You just know what's
I
happening.
just knew, like I just knew, and then we was doing this Pasuri, and she came up with all the harmonies, and I stopped playing cajon for a minute, and I was like, wait, what is happening? So she gave all the harmonies in, and then we actually realized that this is going good. We can we can be something, right? So
Yeah.
then for the next session, so how it started was Nishat met me in one of the events, and she was like, yo, come to my home, let's jam. That's how it started. And same with Zora and Zara. So we came in, we just jammed, and it went well. Then we started jamming all together. So that's
I
how
love it.
was.
It's like this is like my dream, right? That having a bunch of artists together and just jamming, because it's like you just
I know,
vibe
'cause
off
it-
each other.
Yeah, because it always does not work out the way we plan it.
That's
But
true.
this was like better than I had imagined from that afternoon.
Yeah. And don't you find so tell me about what you think. When you're a solo artist, all the pressure is on you. So if it's recording or if it's performing, like all eyes are on you. And I think when you have a group of similar minded, especially women with you, then it's just like you vibe off each other and bring each other up. So it's like as a total package, it's just like times 4 what you're bringing, right? Is that what you're feeling too?
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Actually, I was going to bring that up. I feel like, especially for someone like me, I wasn't used to performing as often. So for me, coming together with all of these women, I felt a lot more confident, and I felt like I had like a pack to like help support me, and and I'm pretty sure they felt the same way, because of course it's like the first time we're coming together and performing on shows like Vibrant Brampton, so we're all like nervous, we're excited. So just coming and doing it together is just a whole different story. It's
Yeah.
just it's a different energy, different sort of enthusiasm, and I think that really helped.
And that's another thing. Like, of course, there's the professionalism that comes with being musicians, but there's also such an easy, friendly chemistry that comes with being friends. And that's just so wonderful to be a part of. Like, this is a really amazing group of women, for sure.
What do you think is the secret in making a successful band? Because I think when some people think you have 4 strong personalities, 4 different creative types coming together, I think sometimes people like behind the scenes, like, is one person feeling like they have to compromise, is one person ending up like becoming the Beyonce of the group, right? So what do you think is the secret in having a successful group?
I think we have always been very mutually respectful of each other's opinions. And I'm not saying we have not had creative differences. There were many before, the Vibrant Brampton event itself, like, what kind of songs we're picking, or, just nitty gritties of like details and stuff. But at the end of the day, we knew that we are working as a team, and we were we would always weigh the pros and cons of the things, to look at it in a rational way and come to a very mutual decision. So I think mutual respect has always been there.
Yeah, and adding to that, I think definitely like realizing that we're all four different individuals. So keeping our individuality intact as part of the band is definitely something we've all worked on. And I think from the get-go, we've all tried to be very transparent. If there is something that we'd like to voice, then we do. And I think that's what brings it like a lot more. And we see that in our work. Like it's honest and it feels more pure when you're sort of coming from that space.
So whenever we are meeting for any jamming sessions, we always meet up with an open mind and with that acceptance that okay, whatever we all four of us saying, we have an open mind and we listen to that person. We'll see if that's working out, pros and cons as Nishat said, and that's how we go with it. So that's, I think, it's not a secret basically, but it's how the band is working for all four
I think
of
you
us.
said it really
And
well.
I think before every session, there is a heart-to-heart conversation that, hey, how's life? So let's talk about that.
That's how it
and
starts.
after that, we move on to music. So I think that also kind of helps in loosening up and then doing what
We've
we love.
definitely become friends more than
I
just
can tell. I feel the vibe.
musicians.
Like I kind of feel like I'm like the new kid sitting at your lunch table, right? I was like, wow, I can really feel the friendship and just like the happiness just being together. Like our audience didn't see this, but when you all came into this room, it was like a reunion where you're all hugging and being like, oh my God, hello. And I was like, that is so nice that you actually outside of performing are friends.
Yeah, that's so.
Friendship
That
first.
is the most beautiful thing. So you feel comfortable with people who you are friends with, right?
Yeah.
So when we are comfortable, we make good music. So yeah, that's how it's all working out for us. We feel blessed. So
Yeah. Okay, so it seems like it's all great. You get to perform with your, I'm going to say, best friends. I've elevated it up to the next level. What do you think, though, is the biggest challenge that you face or maybe other bands face?
in Canada, I feel when it comes to like meeting up is one of the biggest challenge because everybody's working full time, right? We have different schedules, so that is one of the challenges that I personally feel, and I think we all agree on that having a day fixed to meet up on a day is a very difficult thing. So that is what we need actually. So
To add to that, actually, having that fixed schedule, what we have done in the past is when we can't make that fixed schedule, we do virtual meetups. So we've done FaceTime calls, we've done Zoom calls, we've got out the cajon and the guitar, and we'd actually do our sessions online. And that's also been very, very helpful. So, the problems do come up, but we also have very creative solutions to solve them.
Okay. And is there a band in mind that you aspire to or you look up to? Or are you creating your own path right now?
yes, that's what I was about to say. So we did not start out as a band, like we did not have this in mind, so we did not have a vision of who we want to follow. So we started up with our own style, and that is what we want to follow, and that's how we feel that we have our own path and a different path. So we do not follow specifically a band, but as an individual artist, so I can say that we all have list of
Our people.
artists that we follow.
So then, well, how would you describe your style? So for the viewers that have never seen you perform, what would you say is your style?
That's a hard one. I think it's hard to put ourselves in a box because I tend to gravitate towards anything that I enjoy, from ghazals to classical to Sufi to even hip hop to to anything. So it's really anything that speaks to me. I will try and give it sort of my own flavor, which I don't know what it is. I think I'm still like trying to find the words.
That perfectly describes all of us individually. And I think we're all trying to bring that individual aspect, but also create that unique sound.
Okay, so let's talk about then performing. So we got together, we were jamming at home, which is really cool. But then that first performance in front of a live audience. Okay, how did that go? First of all, do you remember it?
Yes, of course.
And so tell me, how did it go for you?
So it was an amazing day. So when we got to know that we are performing at a very huge festival, and that was we only met 2 months ago, I guess.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. 2 months ago,
Wow,
and then
after
we got
2 months, your first live gig.
So that was amazing, and we practiced a lot, obviously, and then we were super excited for it, and those days were actually amazing. We had sleepovers at Nishat's place.
Yes.
And that's when we became like even more good friends. And
Yeah.
with that being said, we had to come up with our like band's name, right? So that's actually when we did that, and we put in a lot of thought, like what should be the name.
Yeah.
Then we came up with this idea. You see Nazz, right? So it's initial of all our names, and it also means pride. So so
I like that.
we are proud of what we are, and that's how we came up with the name.
Yeah.
And that was because of the festival that we were performing at, because we did not think about like
Yeah.
having
What are
a
we
name,
gonna
right?
call
So,
you? Yeah, we need a name.
It's just been 2 months since we all met, right? So
Literally, we would just refer to ourselves as girl band. Like that was the name of our WhatsApp chat and everything. Just
You know how there was like a no-name brand? I feel like you're like a girl band done. Yeah. The generic band, just fill us in here. Yeah. But I'm
That
glad
was
you came
us.
with that name. I have a question. What was the like, close second name that you were considering?
Did we have a close second?
I
I
think
think
we did. I just don't remember.
I
Yeah.
remember that we
don't
would.
say that.
I remember we were stuck on girl band for like the longest
That would be
time.
cool if you were a girl band. I think that'd
Yeah.
be really unique.
And then I think for Nazz, the moment it came up, I remember this. We all looked at each other. We were like, "This is it." Yeah.
Oh
This
no,
is
absolutely.
happening.
And the fact
Yeah.
that each of you has a part of that name, I think that makes it really special too. That's not a name picked by one person or it means something to one person. It's all of you coming
all of
together and
us.
forming this. So yeah. That was a really good choice. Okay, so the first performance after 2 months went really well. And then of course we had you vibe in Brampton. So how was that experience?
So I was not there, so like all three of them can.
You weren't there. Okay, you should have
I
called me.
know.
I could have filled in for her. Okay, next
I
time,
feel
ladies.
this-
I'm the
I
backup.
feel so bad for not being there. I was not well at all, so I had to miss that.
So that's another challenge, right? So what happens if one of you can't come? So then you kind of have to like pick up and care for that person. So then how was the experience being the three at Vibe in Brampton?
So fortunately, we knew other artists that we could fill in as accompaniments. Essentially, we still kept the name sort of intact and what we were performing by the choice of music that we were performing. But in terms of like artists joining on, we knew, luckily we knew someone who could fill in last minute. But coming back to your question about the experience, I think we can all agree it was the best experience. We had our first official green room at
Ooh.
at
By the way,
Vibe
that's a
in
big
Brampton.
deal. As someone
That is
who
a big deal.
sometimes
That
I was
is such a
telling
big
you,
deal. Such
an
humidity
exciting
in the hair. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
have a green room, it's just nice to
Yeah.
kind of like get centered and kind of be like,
Yes.
okay, like otherwise you're just kind of out there with everybody.
Exactly.
And,
And we've experienced that at other festivals where we've just sort of been out there and in the hot summer. But that was like, we actually felt really good about ourselves.
We took many pictures with the door of the green bay.
So many of them.
shout out to Vibe in Brampton for hooking you up with the green room, right? It's like just the little things that mean
The
so
little
much.
things mean so much, and adding to that, I think as a whole, it was a really good experience. It was, the event itself was really well organized. People were very nice and welcoming, and the performance itself was really great. I think we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I always say Brampton loves music, loves diversity. So I just feel like that audience must have just gone wild to see an all-female band on stage. Okay, so it seems like this year you've just had an incredible year. It's like, again, reminding everyone you haven't been together that long, but already like I can feel that you have such a closeness. So let's look to the future. Let's say for the rest of this year, maybe in like 5 years, what are the goals? Where do we want to see ourselves?
So we do have some goals that we actually identified late last year. And one of the big focuses is actually creating our own original material. That's something that all of us really want to accomplish. And I think over the course of the year, we'll be able to venture forward in that direction. So creating our own original compositions, creating our own original lyrics, being able to produce all of it. That's one of the major goals.
I love it. And world domination.
And world domination.
What combination? That's the correct word.
Okay, so that's a really, really good goal. What about in terms of anything else individually that we're hoping to achieve?
I think on an individual level, it's always ongoing. It's always about exploring ourselves, and as artists, I think it's always changing. And even in terms of like the music that we listen and want to perform, so that's always going to be a journey that's going to continue to happen. But yes, I agree with Zora. Like giving more time and energy to the band and making that like a definite priority is also one of our major goals. Knowing that we have like a really busy schedule, we really want to focus like on the band as well. In conjunction with our busy lives.
Sounds like we're going to see lots of you. You know, as you were speaking, I was just thinking, I feel like, and maybe you were like this too, I feel like every girl when she's little dreams about being in a band, right? Like we all kind of like have sleepovers. Like what you were describing, I'm like, I did that in my childhood and it was like the best time. But like, I think a lot of times you don't actually see a lot of all-female bands. So why do you think that is? Like, why is it that we're not seeing more bands like you out there?
That's a very interesting question. I feel like from a personal standpoint and like the culture that I come from, there's sort of I think, I'm not sure if this is like an accurate answer, but I think there's some hesitation around women getting out there and performing. But we're lucky and we're blessed that we're living in Canada and we get these opportunities quite extensively. So that's definitely number one from like a personal background of mine that I've seen like people sort of hold back, especially women. And then I just feel like from what we've seen a lot more individual women artists. And we've seen more male artists collaborating like as sort of the norm. So I think it is nice to have women together and to actually show that we can work together. Like it's, you know, like it's actually much like it's nicer and it's greater. But yeah, if you want to
I think it's definitely much easier. Like contrary to the general belief, it's much easier to work with women because
That is true.
like especially when you like you know their wavelength, you know their energy, the vibe, right? So I feel like it makes the work a lot more fun. And like she said that there is definitely a notion kind of a thing from where we come from. Like I feel really lucky that I found them because it was not my first attempt at making a girl band. I've been trying for a really long time now and finally I'm successful. So anybody out there who is actually trying to do that, just never give up because it's going to happen. Like sooner or later, it's going to happen. You're going to find people of your own mindset and things are going to work out.
And maybe before we let you go, because I was actually going to ask for advice, I'm glad you mentioned that. What can we just do as an audience, as a community to support bands like you?
These music festivals definitely help us, kind of portray our culture, portray, our uniqueness in front of a lot of people. So like we would really want that, that funding keeps going on and like, we get more chances to actually, represent our part of the culture. And also for any new person who is like looking to join a band, I always feel like communication is the best key. Like if I had seen these people and not really reached out to them that, hey, come over to my place and let's jam, then this wouldn't have happened, right? So taking that first step and like, a simple DM to somebody's, Instagram or YouTube that, hey, I really like your work. Like maybe we can collab sometime. So trust me, like that's gonna like, take you a long way.
That's
so
really
maybe
great advice.
that's
I think-
something.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was done. I was done.
I was going to say, to add to what she was saying, the festivals also give us opportunities to meet each other. Like, as Nishat had mentioned, like all of us, we had met each other at the festival circuit. We knew of each other because of the festival circuit. And also to Nishat's point about like, putting yourself out there, also creating opportunities for other people. So in my case, I've been performing professionally for quite a while now. And I knew of Nishat, we had met each other at a previous festival and I knew that, Nishat and other artists, they're trying to break into like the GTA scene. So a couple of years ago, actually, I had a show and there was an opportunity to have guest artists. And I literally DM'd Nishat and I was like, why don't you come to my show? We hadn't met each other at all face to face, but just creating that trust, from woman to woman that, okay, here's an opportunity. Please take it. Come by. And if I remember correctly, you had a busy night and you just dropped it. And you just...
So in my head, I was like, is she crazy? Because why is she calling me as a guest to her show when she could have the whole spotlight? And then Zora was like the most kindest person. And then that was also one of my first shows in Toronto. And then it just went on. Then I think 6 months later, I was like, it's time we make a band because it's really connecting. So I think that act of kindness or like, you know, letting other people actually come into your space and create something together is also something that people should do, because it'll just create a better environment for all of us generally.
Ladies, that is great advice. So thank you so much for sharing all your insight and telling us about your story. I'm so excited to see lots of you this year. But before I let you go, I want to do something very special for our viewers, for those that maybe haven't had a chance to check you out in person. Maybe could we treat them to one song? Could we do a little jam session here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do that.
So maybe 4 bars.
La 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 zoo 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 पी ले इससे इसमें नशा जिसने पिया वो गम भी हंसा पल में हंसाए और पल में हंसाए ये कहानी ओ हो कैसी पहेली है ये कैसी पहेली जिंदगानी ला 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 जू 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 के तुम्हें कि तुम किसी के नूर हो गए मुबारक है तुम्हें कि तुम किसी के नूर हो गए किसी के इतने पास हो कि सबसे दूर हो गए अजीब दास्ता है ये कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म ये मंजिलें है कौन सी न वो समझ सके न हम ला 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 जू 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 That was amazing getting to know some of your favorite local artists and their individual journeys. I hope you feel like you got to know them a little bit better in this episode of My Art, My Story. Now, a big thank you to all of our partners and sponsor, because without their generous support, none of this would be possible. So a big thank you to our main project funder of My Art, My Story, Canada Council for the Arts. A special thanks to all of our media partners, including Metroland Media Group, ATN, and Canadian Immigrant Magazine. A big thank you to our community partners, Downtown Brampton BIA, Brampton Library, Visual Arts Mississauga, Mississauga Music, the Peel Art Gallery Museum and Archives, Visual Arts Brampton, Brampton Arts Coalition Committee, Bose Arts Gallery, Peel Police, Stop Diabetes Foundation, Courtyard by Mary Brampton, and Bombay Bale Mississauga. And a big thank you to all of you for tuning into this episode. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode of My Art, My Story, the journey behind the art. We'll see you next time.